Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. I call this meeting of Lake Mary Toastmasters Club 6440 to order. Before we begin, please silence your cell phones. I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And I would like to apologize for my voice this morning. We did a zombie run yesterday at the Sanford Lake Mary campus, and while scaring all the students, we were screaming at them. But enough about me. Let's go ahead and get our Toastmaster up here today, which I'm actually not sure who that is. Oh, Stephen, please come on up here.
Thank you, Sam. You're all set to be Sergeant at Arms next round.
Absolutely.
Hello, welcome everyone. With the theme this morning, April showers. Who's been getting caught in them so far this month? We've been getting more and more of them. Can you imagine? It's the sunshine stage, and yet we're getting drenched quite often, are we not? We are now in this cycle of the 3 o'clock thunderstorm, apparently, for at least a little while. Combination of the fact that since we're a peninsula stuck out between the Gulf and the Atlantic, we've got breezes moving back and forth across the state, which have plenty of water within them. When they tend to collide, if they often do right here over the middle, and they are often of slightly different temperatures, we end up with condensation forming quite quickly and the nice deluge that follows. Seems to be that along with those deluge, many of our members seem to kind of stay home a bit. Maybe it's a bit harder to get up on the Tuesday mornings, I'm not sure. But we seem to be in the middle of one of those lulls that happens here and there. We did have a few blank spots on the agenda that several people were gracious enough to step in and fill. Sam stepping in to fill the grammarian role, and Stephany stepping up to fill timer. I also heard from Erica that she won't be making it, so I'll be doing the closing at the end for business. With that, we should be getting to our technical table so they can introduce their roles for us. Hopefully they'll manage to get through without getting too wet. Beginning with the one who was actually ready to do the role today, Julia, will you explain yours as I do?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, no guests today. My role is off counter to catch all those ahs, ums, clutch words, filler words, and I'll give my report at the end of the meeting, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Stepping up to take on timer, Stephany.
Role of the timer is to do that. Time everything you say. For the prepared speeches, they're both 5 to 7, I'm given to believe. In 5 minutes, you will get the green. 6, the yellow. The red. At 7, wrap it up. Table topics, the green at 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 60 seconds. Sit down. And then the evaluators, you have 2 to 3 minutes. The green at 2, the yellow at 2.5. Finish your summation, 3 minutes. I'll give my report at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
And taking on the role of grammarian this morning, Sam. Please explain.
Well, good morning, everyone. As grammarian, it is my function to select a word today, or should we say Stephen's function to select the word of the day, to help build members' vocabulary. Each member, when called upon to speak, is encouraged to use the word of the day. Other members may gently rap on the table when they hear a member use the word. Today's word of the day, and thank you for selecting it, is propinquity. Am I saying that correct?
Propinquity.
Propinquity. And that is a state of being close to someone or something proximate or within its proximity. Here's an example of the sentence. He kept his distance as though afraid propinquity might leave.
Oh, the rest got cut off.
Just
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, I'll just real word. I will be listening to any years of grammar as well as excellent word selection. I will also be noting any colorful thoughts or phrases members might use. During the evaluation portion of the meeting, I will present my report. Yay. So what's the word again?
Propinquity.
Propinquity. Like pinquity.
don't say it 3 times.
Such as our propinquity to the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean is what causes the April showers.
Oh. Yeah, $5 bill.
So if April showers bring Mayflowers, what do Mayflowers bring?
Pilgrims.
Wow.
One of the common.
Oh, that's great.
You're awake now.
Yeah.
There's one answer. Think of the other possible answers that may come from that one.
Children.
That may follow. As we move on from here into our speeches, we have 2 speeches scheduled this morning. There was an open slot. No one decided to jump into that one. Nonetheless, 2 is certainly great. We love hearing those that we have. If they can sneak in the word of the day, this will be very interesting. Especially since one of them is actually reading, and you're supposed to read what you have in front of you. And if you have a problem with the word of the day, you should have volunteered to be grammarian when I said it was open. Our first speech this morning coming from Macarena, giving her 3rd speech. I would like to introduce Macarena Torres, who will be speaking from the Competent Communication Manual number 3. This is the Get to the Point project, where she will be talking about the importance of serving our communities. Please welcome Macarena.
Thank you, Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and no guests. That's okay. Mother Teresa said, "Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service." I never really quite grasped the importance of community service until I started to get involved myself a little after I graduated college. I always thought it would be something I would do at some point in my life, but for the time being would keep it on my bucket list as things to do before I died. Little did I know I would be getting involved much sooner than I thought. At the time that I started to get involved, I was going through a very rough, tough, and difficult time in my life, in my personal life. I was going through a lot of stress, a little bit of depression with certain aspects of my personal life. It wasn't until a friend of mine, approached me and invited me to attend a homeless meeting with a local ministry in downtown Orlando. I said, why not? We can do it now, we can do it later, but why not? I got an invite, let's go, let's do this. I realized that there are so many incredible benefits to getting involved with community service. For instance, let me share with you a couple of the personal benefits that I was able to experience serving our community. When you volunteer, you're not just helping those you serve, but you're helping yourself. When you serve, you have that amazing feel-good feeling, knowing that you were able to be a blessing to someone else's life. However, it can also help yourself. It can help with depression. It can help with stress. For example, I remember, this was just a year ago, I've been volunteering with the ministry for a total of 5 years, but just a year ago, I was driving to the homeless event. The homeless event takes place between 5:30 to 7:30, so I have to go right after work. I was super stressed from work, very overwhelmed, contemplating on staying home. However, I went ahead and I went. I got there and I said, God, please give me the strength for the next 2 hours to be able to be a blessing into these people's life, to be able to be that motivation, that to be able to give the words of encouragement, of wisdom, that I know that you want me to give to them. I left the car, I started to serve. By the end of the 2 hours, I didn't want to leave. I was the last person to leave the parking lot, and I left with the biggest smile on my face. It took so much stress out of me, and it filled my heart with so much joy. To know that I was able to pray for someone, to know that I was able to help feed a mouth, to help put clothes on someone's back. It's just an amazing feeling, and I hope that everyone is able to experience that as well. Another benefit is that it brings the community together. There is an amazing sense of propinquity that it brings. And not just with the people that you volunteer with, but also with the people that you help serve. With the people that you volunteer with, you encounter fresh new faces each and every day. You never know who's going to come and volunteer. There's going to be familiar faces, and there's going to be faces that you've never seen before in your life. However, it's the people that you serve that you develop a close bond with. For example, the people that I volunteer with the homeless, I'm able to know their names, and they're able to know mine. I'm able to know their story, and they're able to know mine. I've had quite a few homeless people say, Mac, guess what? I got a job. Mac, guess what? I'm able to book a ticket to go and see my family in Pennsylvania. Now I get to be next to family, when right now I don't have family. What a blessing. What a blessing to get to see where these people that desperately need our help, where they started from and where they're going. It's such a wonderful, wonderful blessing. Another blessing, this is for everyone who has kids, it's such a wonderful way to see how the youth is being impacted. They're able to learn amazing values and morals that can help them all throughout their lifetime. Children and teenagers become active in the community and become positive contributors to society. They're able to know humbleness, gratefulness, honesty, sincerity, kindness, and above all, respect. Teens develop better appreciation for the little things in life. I know that today's society, they tend to stay with their video games, and you see more of the youth staying at home, but it's so wonderful when I get to see 8-year-olds, 11-year-olds, teens want to come out and help serve. There are many things that you could do with your community as far as serving. It's not just with homelessness. You can get involved with volunteering at a hospital. You can get involved at your local pet shelter, or hanging out with the elderly at a living facility. One person can make a huge difference in one's life. It really does bring a nation together. I encourage everyone to sacrifice a few hours of his or her own week to serve the community, because I promise you it will be the most rewarding sacrifice you will ever make. Thank you.
Madam Timer, give us 1 minute so everyone can fill out their informal evaluation forms. Alternative answers. April showers bring Mayflowers. Mayflowers bring June bugs. Don't see too many of them in Florida, but I saw a lot of them up in Michigan and Virginia when I was growing up. In the meantime, though, we have another speech. This one is coming from the Storytelling Manual, bringing history to life. Jorge Friggles is here to speak about one of the many historic Roman figures that piqued his interest during his recent honeymoon, actually, to Italy. So please welcome Jorge.
Thank you. Master Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and no guests this morning. Have you ever thought about what would happen if you made a different decision at any point in your life, whether it was to move to a certain place, take a certain job, come here this morning or not, and the overlapping effects that would have come from that decision, what they call it the butterfly effect, things that would have happened and compound on each other because of decisions you would have made before. And when I was in Italy doing these tours, I kept hearing about Constantine and how he really made Christianity acceptable and brought Christianity to the forefront for the Roman people throughout the Roman Empire. And I kept thinking, what if this emperor never decided to really pursue Christianity? What if he just continued with the, as it was always been with the Roman Empire, they were typically pagan. They worshipped many gods, Venus, Apollo, you get the picture, but very similar to the Greeks, many deities, things like that. And not that they were intolerant of other religions. It depended on what part of the Roman Empire you're in. Sometimes you'd get it worse than other ones, and they were more tolerant or less tolerant, depending on the region of the Roman Empire you're in. But generally, pagan was the main religion, and it wasn't until Constantine came about that he made Christianity acceptable. So I was just thinking about, would Christianity be as accepted or as popular as followed today, all forms of Christianity, if he did not do that? There were some instances of Christian persecution by the Romans, mostly there was one instance in 64 AD where the Emperor Nero, this is pre-Constantine, blamed the Christians for the Great Fire of Rome, which he then took advantage of, and he was able to expand his palace. He got to build all sorts of cool things. Not even the Romans really liked Nero. Nero was kind of a jerk all around to everybody, but a couple hundred years after that, probably in the year 303, there was the Emperor Diocletian, and he was the first. He conducted the Great Persecution. It lasted from 303 to 311. Christian homes were burned, books were burned, Christians were tortured, mutilated, burned, and put into gladiatorial feats. Shortly after that is when Constantine came to power. When Constantine came to power, his father was a high-ranking officer in the Roman Empire. He fought underneath him, and when his father died, took his place and eventually ended up becoming the emperor. Actually, in one of these battles, it was the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, where it was said that possibly could have been the start of his belief into Christianity, was when he looked up into the sun and he saw a sign, and the sign said something to the effect of, with this sign you will conquer, and he had all his soldiers emblazoned on their shields, Cairo, Christian symbol, and they were victorious after that. So there's a lot of stories that point to that as a turning point for him. being Christian. Also, maybe his propinquity with his mother, Selena, who happened to be a Christian as well. So one of the two ways are two common stories that are out there of how he really began his Christian faith. Nonetheless, after that, just a year after that, actually, when he was emperor in 313, he signed the Edict of Milan, which actually instituted tolerance for all religions and made the Roman Empire completely religion neutral. So there was no main religion for the Roman Empire after the Edict of Milan was signed in 313. Of course, though, he did show his favoritism toward Christianity by making Christians, giving them very high prominent positions in the government. He endowed the church with lots of money and land and wealth, and there was the beginning of the linkage of the Christian religion and the Roman Empire from then going forward due to the decisions that he made after that. Much after his death, he died. He ruled until the year 337. In the year 380 was signed the Edict of Thessalonia, and that was the actual edict that made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire quite a few years after his reign, but it was him that opened the doors to allow that to happen. After he was in charge, and some other things that he did while he was in charge, is that he moved the capital away from Rome. He moved it to Byzantine, and in Byzantine he created that capital in a more Christian type buildings and all sorts of other things. Not too long after that, though, or actually quite a while after that, in 1453, unfortunately, that was conquered by the Ottoman Empire, and it turned Muslim. And then in 1923, what is now modern-day Turkey, it's what we call Istanbul. So, what that was, he moved the capital there, the Roman capital stayed in Byzantine for quite some time. Or actually, it wasn't called Byzantine. He recreated Byzantine, and since he was such a humble person, named it Constantinople. After him. You have to have a certain bravado to be a Roman emperor. You're not just going to name it. You're not just going to keep the name the same. Why not name it after yourself? He did make a lot of other, I guess, administrative or ruling, very Christian-based decisions. For instance, after he came into power, prisoners were actually allowed to, you weren't allowed to keep a prisoner in the dark all day. I guess you actually had to come out. So you started seeing some compassion come out in other forms of the way the Roman Empire really conducted themselves across the world. He also banned crucifixions. Up until that time, the Romans had a couple of different ways of putting people to death. They would put you in a bag with scorpions and drown you. They could burn you at the stake. They could behead you. But crucifixion was the worst out of all of them, and they only actually saved that. They wouldn't even do that to another Roman. It was saved for non-Romans, or the only ones that could be crucified. Just to show you the seriousness of the crucifixion, that method of death. But he banned that method going forward for Romans and for all individuals. So you can see how he just changed the world little by little. So just wanted to share with you a little bit of what I thought and what struck me as I was thinking of how the world could have possibly been different if maybe he decided not to make a stand for Christianity. Would it have been as popular as it is today? Would maybe another religion have that same kind of reach and spread that Christianity now does today? Or could we be living under a completely different society or a completely different, I guess, religious hierarchy, if you will, popularity, whatever. You can see, by the way, I wrote this morning. all these interests piqued me while I was at the gym this morning, trying to go on the elliptical and writing things down from Google on the phone. Fact check me if you'd like. There's probably a couple of years that were off there, but nonetheless. The moral of the story is just to think about how these different decisions could have impacted your lives that were made hundreds of years ago, possibly thousands of years ago.
Thousands.
Yes, thousands. Master Toastmaster.
I have timer for 1 more minute, and everyone can give their feedback to Jorge.
Where do you start?
If April showers bring Mayflowers, Mayflowers bring hay fever.
Yeah, I'll get that.
With our location and the streams of air that come from both the Gulf and the Atlantic here colliding here over Florida, we also end up with a lot of energy that gets generated from these collisions, resulting in Florida being the place where the most lightning strikes will occur in the United States. Possibly around the world, although there are parts of Africa that also have quite a bit. We are used to hearing those thunderbolts clapping down, but for those people who are not native to Florida when they come to visit, as my wife was when she first moved to Miami many, many years ago, the first storm she had coming through Miami, she was terrified that everything was going to completely be destroyed since there was lightning strikes and thunderclaps going on all over the place. No, it's actually quite normal with all the lightning that we have around here. In fact, just last night, apparently one hit a tree at the block and a half from my house and dropped it onto the road. We have lots of opportunities for such things to happen around here. Lightning may happen to strike. You have a better chance of that than winning the lottery, by a long shot, by the way. So if you're hoping to win the lottery, you might want to be careful when you step outside. For that matter, you have a better chance of surviving table topics, which is what we're coming up to next. And there's a bit of time today since there were only 2 speakers, so don't think that you're necessarily safe. Although Martin and Ernst being evaluators, you should be safe. I can't guarantee that Mike won't still manage to select you. In the meantime, please welcome Mike Hughes, our table topics master this morning.
To the topics of the day. So, if that means anything at all, let's go ahead and kick this off. And I'm going to start with you two first, just because you guys got the most to plan for. So let's kick this off with Ernst. I know we're not supposed to do this backwards, but I'm going to. April showers bring Mayflowers. But what do you want Mayflowers to bring in your life, Ernst?
Mr. Table Talks Master, fellow Toastmasters, Mayflowers bring April showers. How can that be? April showers bring Mayflowers? Sure. Flowers. I'm the one in my household who has the green thumb, so I'm going out to buy the plants for our yard, and I'm actually out there planting every day. And in fact, I got an award not too long for having the nicest yard. However, what puzzles me all the time is trying to figure out what flowers to buy, because there's so many, and all the time I buy the ones which die after 3-4 weeks, or maybe 2 months. So I'm trying to figure out how can you buy flowers, so what flowers should I buy which not only last for 6 weeks, but for the whole summer. This is Table Talks.
Martin, since you're next, we'll just get it out of the way. Community service has many great benefits. What service have you volunteered for, and what did you experience? Mr. Mark.
Thank you, Mike, and great question. Actually, I just joined the Rotary Club of Lake Mary. Joined my fellow Toastmaster Ernst and Erica, and have already participated in one service project, and that was volunteering at the beer tent. Starting at 9 a.m. in the morning for the homeless shelter in Sanford while they had their 5K just a couple of weekends ago, which was great because by noon I had about 4 beers. So I look forward to that again, and many other events very similar to that. I can definitely do a good job manning the beer tent. Pretty good at it. Thank you.
Really brought something back to the community in the form of a beer tent. So what if I was to take that away? What if you had everything taken away from you? How would you go about getting on your feet again? Gus.
Mr. Table Topic Master and fellow Toastmasters, no guest. If I have everything taken away from me, one of the thoughts I will have, there's something in me, I'm still alive, and no one has taken that away from me. Therefore, I will be looking around and be grateful that I have life. Because the time that has actually literally happened, you know, I had everything taken away from me. And it was an amazing experience that I look back to that has become a teaching opportunity. The relationships and the service we provided for those people 12 years back still continue to bear fruit. Mr. Table Topic Master.
Clearly, decisions make big deals in our lives. So, if you could change one decision in your life, what would it be and why, Stephany?
Just one?
Just one. You have 30 seconds.
Mr. Table Topics Master, retrospection and hindsight is everything. But if I had that now, then what I know now, or even if I had the ability to go back and undo something or not do something, it would most likely be not to marry my first husband. Hindsight. Talking about taking everything from you, well, I experienced that, but it didn't stay like that because I went back and got everything back. Whoa, that's right. I waited for the right propinquity. I was not in the area. Wasn't expecting that. I went back with family and a truck, and I took everything but the paint off the walls. Yes. And therefore, I learned my lesson. I listened to sound advice that I rejected first time around, and I will forever, ever, ever be grateful for sound counsel going forward. Mr. Taylor.
Clearly, hell hath no fury. Now let's think about that from a leader standpoint. If you could be a ruler any time in history, where would you be and why, Sam?
Thank you, Table Topics Master, for such an ambiguous question, really. If I was to be the leader during any time frame, I would want to actually be within the Roman Empire. The reason for it is because that was one of the most crucial points in the world's history in the sense of expansion, Silk Road, and the spreading of all religions throughout the world. So if there was a time to where I would do it, or to be the leader of basically the world, which was the Roman Empire, I would want to do it right after Alexander had conquered most of the Mediterranean.
That, sir, was a good answer. So, the question is who is your favorite leader or ruler in history and why? Julia.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Who is my favorite ruler in history? It's a good question. I'm drawing a blank right now because I'm not a history buff. The propinquity of that question has me totally stumped when it comes to history. My favorite ruler. I don't know. It's a total blank. I don't even know how to respond as to that. Right now in time, I would probably fire every ruler in the U.S.
Yeah.
They're not leading very well, in my humble opinion. Probably someone in history needs to replace the whole government right now because they can't get along. There is absolutely no propinquity in our different viewpoints. Instead, they fight and want to completely destroy each other. So I would fire our entire government leadership, bring in new leadership maybe from the past so that we don't repeat those problems in history and learn from it instead. Thank you.
Clearly, you don't want to live in the present. So, if you could live in any era, in any time in history, where would you live, Kerri?
Really?
Truly, I would kind of vary a little bit. I would like to live more like the 1800s-ish, but that would probably be in England if I did that. But truly, probably like the 50s here in the United States, in a little small town that, you know, kind of like Pleasantville. That's true. And it's also some of my favorite era of music, and so.
I don't know why I try. So, turning my turn over to Mr. Toastmaster. Turn it over.
For the rest of us, big sigh of relief. As we have survived table topics. Now apparently April showers, Mayflowers, now they bring us meeting themes and table topics. Hopefully you've enjoyed these so far. For now we get to move into the evaluation section of the meeting. And to lead us through this section, we have Gus taking on the leadership role.
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, no guest. This is the portion of the meeting where we have the opportunity to have comments by the evaluators on the prepared speeches, and also the technical table continues to do their work, our counter, grammarian, and timer for those who gave prepared speeches, those who were involved in the table topics. Then also we have some general comments for the meeting today, then that would bring my portion of the meeting to the end. The first evaluator will be Ernst, will be evaluated on the first speech that was given by Macarena. Please help me welcome Ernst.
Mr. General Evaluator and fellow Toastmasters, and especially Macarena. This was your third speech. You did an outstanding job, especially on a subject where you have such large amount of propinquity. Many times I was wondering, driving through Lake Mary, unfortunately, you see people staying in the street and wonder how to deal with them, and quite honestly, it just broke my mind. Should I have dollar bills all the time or coupons and so forth? Anyways. At first, I wasn't quite sure when you started out here what the objective was. When you thought, I thought it was a broken relationship. It had something to do with your with a lover or someone closer to you. Was that the reason then which caused you to go into or serving the homeless? I wasn't quite sure. It was not clear in the very beginning. Then I could have been, I'm losing my train of thought. It should have been trying to come up with the words. Could have been, in the beginning, more clear as to what exactly it was about. And I thought I was trying to figure out, did you have a bad relationship with your friend and so forth. But anyways, giving evaluation is not one of my better traits. In regards to standing up here, knowing the subject so well, especially dealing with people, I would have thought that you could have taken this lectern away and be a little bit more free-flowing. The objective of the speech was to not use notes, and you did refer to notes, and I think that, you know, in order to really improve on a subject which you know so well, that you could have done without the notes. Also at the end, when you said thank you, that's really not necessary when you give a speech. What did you like about the presentation? Address subject we all should be, what I really like the presentation is to address the subject we should be all much more aware because of the economic environment we're in. Mr.
You realize, as I was handing up from Ernst, I was very aware of the propinquity of our relationship. Evaluations continue. We have our second speaker bringing history to life. Evaluates the speech. The second speaker, Jorge, would be Martin Bell. So let's welcome Martin Bell.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Jorge, who delighted all of us by bringing back some high school world history. I don't know about you guys, but I've totally forgotten characters from world history since then. And I'm very glad you did bring up Constantine the Great. So the purpose of this particular speech, for those of us that weren't aware until this morning, was to tell a story about a historical event or person. And there were three things to consider. The story should have a plot, number one. Number two, there should be character development. And number three, it should build to a climax. So, in terms of evaluating Jorge and the guidelines for this particular speech, was the plot of the story clear? And in my personal opinion, I thought it was. He was giving us some education about Constantine the Great, a big historical figure, you know, not just for religious reasons, but really for civilization, if we take it into consideration, and bring it into our personal lives. I think Jorge did a good job of kind of describing what would be different in our lives if Constantine had made different decisions, this butterfly effect, right? And I'm thinking at the end of the speech, well, what would have been the butterfly effect if Jorge had not gone to the gym this morning? I was in really good propinquity to working. And if you could raise up your notes, Jorge, I don't know how he understands anything he wrote down. So I was quite pleased he was able to get a plot from these notes particularly. Very impressive, yes. So did the speaker succeed in building a story to a climax? I thought it was. I thought he did a good job. And some of us may have been let down to realize that here's Jorge about an hour ago sweating it out at the gym preparing for his speech. But giving a speech off the cuff can be a great skill. And I advise many of you to try it. You know, some of us prepare for a week or 2 or 3 weeks. Try preparing like right there on the cuff and see what you can do with that. That helps to build confidence. Did Jorge build up the characters? I thought he did in terms of building up Constantine. And I did like the fact that he brought another character into the story, that jerk, Nero, right? I would have liked if you had to build up some other characters in history, but it would have probably cost you another 15 minutes on the treadmill. Did the speaker make effective use of description and dialogue? I think he engaged us, yes, again with a butterfly effect, bringing it to our personal lives. And did we all gain greater insight into the historical person? I think we did. Jorge talked about paganism, he talked about persecution, he talked about Constantine's father, a couple of battles, edicts. So I really thought he made it a great storyline or timeline in bringing the main character, Constantine, into life and relating it to the current moment. I see the red color over there, so that brings it up. Jorge, I thought you did a pretty darn good job. Just a few more characters. You do a great job of storytelling. Just go with it. Maybe a few more minutes on the Treadmaster before the speech. We'll be right there. Thank you.
That concludes the evaluation of the speakers. Part of the educational process of speeches that are prepared and given have responsibilities, both the speaker and the evaluator. We always have the manual, the project number, and the evaluation questions. I think those of us who have been beneficiaries of Stephen, and I think Stephany will be doing an evaluation, always look for the method that what did they do very well, what can you suggest for improvement, and what is so outstanding about the speech. Now the technique for us to be able to do that, it's when you look in your manual, some of your projects, it's the listening section, you know, in your competent leader manual, because those are all the sources that help us. There's a page at the back of your competent communication manual that I even referred to yesterday because it tells me how to do evaluation. So I have to sit at the back, listen to the speeches and make sure. So look in the manual and be able to give those 2 points. That's part of the education that takes place. Again, for evaluation, what was really outstanding? Did they meet the objectives of the speech? Ernst, you can be looking that over to help all of us. And what are the things I can suggest that you could do differently, and what was outstanding about the speech? That's for the evaluators of these prepared speeches. Table topics, Mike kept us suspended. You know, he told us he was going to do it in reverse, and knowing that he had enough time, he went around and got everybody. And thank you for going with the theme, and your questions were related to the speakers, not only the April showers and the May what? May brings?
Mayflower.
So you were able to relate to that. I felt that was well done. Probably it's not your time. I don't want to get to this yet, to the technical table. I'll be with you shortly. Sam did an amazing job about filling in today as the Sergeant of Arms. You know, last week he was here on time and rearranged the room from what Alexander had. But still we had the question of the technical table. So when the speakers are speaking from table topics, they are addressing Mike, and Stephany is there waving the timing cards. You see that? So we still have to figure that out. But thank you for filling in. You did the setup, and he was ready. I think he was really looking forward to just going like this. So thank you. The room was set up. We started on time, and Stephen was able, as the Toastmaster, to bridge the thing throughout his introductions. He was able to quickly get a grammarian and a timer. I think that's always helpful. Even though we have it on Easy Speak, it's always helpful for us to be able to look at that. Now at this time, I would like to have the technical table to give us their reports, and we're going to start with the timer. Stephany.
We had some quick talkers and some lengthy talkers today. He averaged out. Macarena, perfect. 6:45. Jorge, well, Jorge, for the speech portion, you were okay. But then when you gave us the history of the speech, you went on to make it 8 minutes and 28 seconds. Equal topic. Ernst.
By the way, it says 7 to 9 in the book, though.
Did it say 7 to 9?
Oh, didn't have that, it was.
Okay, if it's 7 to 9, then it's.
Oh, 7 to 9.
Oh, you good. Okay, all right.
My mistake.
Okay, Ernst, 58 seconds, perfect. Martin, 45 seconds. This is table topics. Gus, 39 seconds. I went on for an hour and 15 minutes. No, 1:15. Rascal. Sam, 40 seconds. Julia, 1.11. And Kerri, 36 seconds. And okay, evaluators. Ernst, 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Martin, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. You're holding a record there. And that's my report. Thank
you. Moving on for the technical table report, we'll now hear from Julia, the art counter. Julia.
Made some money?
Made some money.
I hope so.
Stephen, not with you though. I was zero. I was listening. Stephany, 1 but, 1 pause. Sam, 1 so and an and. Jorge, buddy old pal. 9 yeahs, 4 so's, 3 buts, 1 and, 1 pause, and 11 double slushes.
It's less.
I can't believe that you.
Retired Martin.
Mr. Mike. What? 1 and 5 so's. Ernst, 5 1 so, 1 and 2 pauses. Martin, impressive. You still made a lot of ahs. Not as many as that 47 that one day, right? 11 ahs, then 12 ahs, 3 so's, 2 ands. Gus, 1 so, 2 you knows, and Kerri, 1 like, 1 but, and 1 double clutch. That's my report.
Thank you. We now hear from the grammarian the use of the word of the day.
That's the word of the day, Sam. Well, hopefully, as a grammarian, I'll have a little more propinquity to say the word of the day myself. But there was a few grammatical errors throughout the general evaluations that we did, which were more so, I believe, nerves, but everyone had a lot of flavorful words as well, and that's what more so I want to focus on. Stephen and Stephany, I always enjoy listening to you guys speak because I learn a new word each time you open your mouth. That's true.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. As well as Stephen, Macarena, and Mike, you all had rhymes within your speech, such as rough and tough, and you said something else that didn't record it, but it was still in there as well as yours. You had something that I couldn't write down. Gus, continue to bear fruit. I enjoyed that one. My humble opinion. As well as for Martin, off the cuff. I really liked those different expressions. The only thing that I would recommend as a group that we do, it brought a little bit of a negative connotation when we said, and no guest. We established that there was no guest in the beginning, so let's go ahead and keep it that way.
Thank you.
Only one person did not use the word of the day, so I apologize already. But everyone else, great job.
Good. Part of in Toastmasters, we always say is a place where leaders are made and where we improve our communication. I think the greatest benefit to have is to have those manuals. The speeches we do here are the demonstration of what we do with the manuals. So I would encourage you, take time to look at your manuals, whether you're doing the CC or other current manuals, and also your competent leader. And lastly, don't forget to read the magazines. How many of you received the magazine? Amazing articles in the magazines. That's all to bring the educational portion to a close. At this time, with the absence of our president, I'll turn it over to Stephen Morgan.
See, fairly Turn it back over.
Back over. Scratch.
Where has the schedule gotten to so far?
Over there.
Oh, come on, technical table.
Please get it
I
moving.
passed it.
The other side of the room still needs a shot at it.
Just wanted to write something in.
It's up there.
It's up there somewhere?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my goodness.
In the meantime, this coming Sunday is the Division G contest, which is the division we're now a part of. It will be at On Top of the World at Cypress Hall in Ocala on Sunday at 2 o'clock. I'm sure Stephany and I would both love seeing as many of you there who would be willing to make it, and see if either of us get all the way to district come May 29th and 30th. The district conference will be at the Florida Mall, the hotel down there at the Florida Mall, on May 29th and 30th. I know I've signed up to go. Anyone else signed up, planning to go yet? Stephany? It's not that far, and at the very least, you would probably think it'd be worthwhile just to see the International Speech Contest Saturday night for the price it would be. And you'd still be able to see the table topics going on Friday night if you wish. So if you have the opportunity, toastmastersd84.org is our district website, and you can register there. Are there any other announcements at this time? Anyone else?
Mike owes 30 cents. Sam owes 10 cents. Stephany, 10 cents.
Gotcha.
As well as we have our 50-50. A lot of people
Right,
are weighed
right.
in, but today's actually a pretty good pot. So if you would like to add more money in there, please go ahead and do so.
Give you a chance to do a little bit more as they're going along.
That's what.
Coming up next month, so that you're thinking ahead, we are supposed to have the elections for the officers that take their positions come July 1st. So over the next month, you want to consider which positions you'd be willing to take on. Think about it, because almost certainly you may be asked, or we may need you to do that very thing. Of the offices that we have there, if you have one in mind, the only one that only Erica would be ineligible for being president again. That's the only restriction. You're not allowed to do it more than 1 year straight. Everything else is up for grabs. And we'd love to see more people doing more of those things, especially if you haven't done them before. The more the merrier. It's an opportunity to learn and to grow further. And no, you do not have to be ready before you take office. The point is you get trained and you get support as you're doing it, and you get the opportunity to make those mistakes and learn just as you do with your speaking. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, that's the reason you should be doing it. As we are set for next week, Samuel has set himself for Sergeant-at-Arms for another week.
Yay!
He's been drafted, apparently.
Yes, I have.
Although Martin and Jorge, oh no, I'm sorry, that's 2 weeks out. Next week we have Jorge is listed for Toastmaster. Ernst, Gus, and Erica are scheduled to speak. I'll be table topics, Kerri's general evaluator. Macarena, your first time will be evaluating. You ready for this one?
Good. Good. Yeah. Yes.
It's not that hard. Also have Lori Richards, Stephany evaluating. Put Lamar at odd counter, Julia for grammarian, and Mike for timer. Week after that, no one's scheduled for Toastmaster yet. Consider it, or you may be drafted. And Martin and Jorge have asked to speak. Are there any other requests or announcements before we hit 50-50?
750 today.
Oh boy, and draw it. Not one.
Good job. Julia.
I was joking.
So she puts it back because she saw it.
Yeah.
What a snake. What a snake.
All right, the number, I couldn't read it anyway.
Right.
The number is 2300905.
What a co-op.
All right.
Fix.
No kidding.
It is 8:30. We are adjourned.